specialize in a very specific type of security. Subconscious security.
Even though Inception ends with a stack of unanswered questions and one of the most debated final shots in modern movies, that open-ended feeling is exactly why people are still talking about it, and also why the idea of Inception 2 refuses to go away. Christopher Nolan didn't design the ending to be solved like a math problem. He built it so viewers would keep arguing, rewatching, and rethinking what they saw, because mystery was always part of the experience. For every clear rule the movie gives about dreams, totems, and layered realities, it also throws in a bunch of complications that make certainty impossible. That balance between structure and doubt is what keeps the door open for a sequel, and it's a big reason why talk of Inception 2 still feels alive. The final scene with Cobb's spinning top is probably one of the most discussed endings in film history because it refuses to give a firm answer. The top spins, wobbles slightly, and then the screen cuts to black. Some viewers are convinced it was about to fall, which would mean Cobb was back in reality. Others argue it kept spinning, which would mean he was still dreaming. But the real point is that Nolan never wanted a confirmed answer. He wanted the audience to sit with uncertainty because the movie keeps asking whether absolute reality even matters if the emotional truth feels real. That creative choice didn't just make the ending memorable, it also created perfect conditions for a follow-up story. Because the ending never locked the door completely, Inception 2 can happen without breaking the original film's logic. A sequel could explore whether Cobb truly made it home, whether dream technology evolved, or whether someone else is now using the same systems in a more dangerous way. Even though some people worry that continuing the story could ruin the mystery, a well-designed sequel could actually expand the world instead of closing it. Nolan's universe already has rules, organizations, and technology behind dream sharing, so there's plenty of space for another mission. Leonardo DiCaprio's involvement would be a major factor because Cobb is the emotional anchor of the original story. A sequel without him would feel risky, since audiences connect the entire concept to his character. Bringing him back would also force the story to address the big question: was he dreaming or awake at the end? But that doesn't mean the sequel has to give a blunt answer. It could approach the truth sideways, maybe through consequences, side characters, or conflicting evidence. That way the mystery stays intact while the story still moves forward. The reason sequel rumors never fully disappear is simple: the concept is too strong to leave alone. Dream infiltration, layered realities, time dilation, and psychological architecture give writers a huge creative playground. A second film could introduce a new target, a new victim, or even a new team using the same technology in a different way. Because the dream world allows almost unlimited visual and narrative flexibility, a sequel wouldn't feel repetitive if the mission structure changes. There's also been steady chatter about spin-offs and companion stories set in the same universe. Some industry talk has suggested that instead of a direct Inception 2, there could be a connected story with different characters operating under the same dream-sharing framework. That approach would let the franchise grow without undoing Cobb's ending. It also fits Nolan's style because he tends to avoid straightforward sequels unless there's a strong character arc that demands continuation, like with the Dark Knight trilogy. One persistent rumor is that a related project could give Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother and longtime writing collaborator, a chance to direct a large-scale feature set in this world. Jonathan Nolan has built a strong reputation through writing and showrunning, especially with complex sci-fi storytelling, so a dream world spin-off under his direction would make creative sense. It wouldn't technically be Inception 2, but it would absolutely keep the story world moving forward. A lot of confusion around sequel talk started when Tenet was first announced. Because early footage showed gravity-defying action and reality-bending mechanics, many people assumed it might secretly be Inception 2. The tone and visual style looked similar, so speculation took off quickly. But once more details came out, it became clear that Tenet was its own story focused on time inversion rather than dream layers. The lead actor even described it as more like a distant relative than a direct continuation. So although it scratched a similar intellectual action itch, it didn't continue the dream heist storyline. Still, the comparison between Tenet and Inception actually strengthens the case for an eventual sequel because it shows how much audience appetite there is for high-concept Nolan sci-fi. When viewers see reality-bending action from him, they immediately connect it back to Inception. That brand recognition matters because studios pay attention to which concepts stay culturally active over time, and Inception has never really gone quiet in the public imagination. Another reason Inception 2 feels more possible now than before is how sequel culture has evolved. Studios are more willing to return to successful properties after long gaps because nostalgia cycles and streaming exposure keep older hits fresh for new audiences. More than a decade has passed since the first film, but it continues to trend, get analyzed, and attract new viewers. That long tail of interest makes a continuation less risky than it would have been just a few years after release. Story-wise, a sequel doesn't have to repeat the original structure beat for beat. The first film focused on planting an idea inside a target's mind. A second film could flip the premise and explore extraction at a deeper or more dangerous level, or even weaponize dream invasion on a larger scale. It could show corporate or political misuse of dream tech, because the original already hinted that the technology existed beyond Cobb's team. Expanding the scope would raise stakes naturally. There is also room to explore the psychological cost of repeated deep dream work. Cobb and his team dealt with memory bleed, projection hostility, and identity distortion. A sequel could center on someone who has gone too deep for too long and can no longer separate layers of reality. That would keep the emotional intensity high while still delivering the mind-bending mechanics audiences expect. Even though Nolan is known for preferring original standalone stories, he has shown he will return when the creative justification is strong enough. The Batman trilogy proved that he is willing to continue a narrative if there is thematic weight behind it. With Inception, themes of grief, guilt, perception, and reality are broad enough to support another chapter. It wouldn't need to feel like a commercial add-on, it could feel like a philosophical continuation. Another interesting path for Inception 2 would be shifting the protagonist role while keeping Cobb as a legacy figure. He could appear as a mentor, a cautionary tale, or a consultant pulled back into the field. That approach keeps DiCaprio involved while allowing a new lead character to carry most of the plot. It also lowers risk because the franchise identity stays intact but gains fresh perspective. The open ending actually helps here because Cobb's status is flexible. If he was dreaming, a sequel could show how long he has been trapped and what that has done to his mind. If he was awake, the story could show the long-term consequences of his past actions and whether the dream would truly let him go. Both paths are workable, which is exactly why leaving the ending unresolved was such a smart long-term move. So while the original ending was designed to be beautifully uncertain, that uncertainty is also what makes a second chapter possible. The spinning top didn't just create debate, it created longevity. And because the dream world still has unexplored corners, unresolved consequences, and room for new players, the chances of Inception 2 happening feel stronger than ever, with the story ready to move forward instead of staying frozen at that final cut to black. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.